The recruitment package. A very basic thing. A lot of people take hits on their website and they'll send out a heap of information. To me, that's just over the top. Yes, send some information out, but then contact them. So I don't know how many of you sort of found me online. Yeah, okay, half of you here. The process depends on what you whether you did a test or whether you applied for a book. But the whole idea of this was so that you get that book, you have a read of it, and it starts to give a bit of credibility to me and answer some of your questions. You think, well, it's worth having a chat. So that's part of it. And so you want to use that similar sorts of principle. You know, that's something that we run through in the manuals and we talk about it in our recruitment workshops. It's horses for courses. So you send something out, there's a letter, dear John, thank you for applying, blah, 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 signed by the CEO or the founder of the company. And there's the brochure. There may be a DVD or a USB stick there or a link to, you know, to a Vimeo site or a YouTube where they can go and have a look at something. And that DVD may well be a little DVD of your franchisee talking about the franchise, something of that nature. And then you have an application form. It's important with your application form to ask the right questions at the right time to qualify people. So you don't want to be like Annette and ended up with half a dozen people. She's all excited, I've got 6 franchises, and none of them actually had the money. They've done the thing that so many people do. They've spoken to the bank, and the bank said, yes, we'll sort out some funding. When they went to apply for it, the bank said, oh, no, you don't meet the criteria, or things have got tight, or whatever. So it's important to get the right information at the right time. And that needs to be layered. You don't try and progress people too far at a time, because you're going to intimidate them. You've got to keep it so they're coming to you. So the old sales adage, I think, is still true. You give people information, but you don't give them too much. So they've still got questions to ask. They won't take on too much at a time anyway, which is why you look at it, you progress through a step at a time. You have a telephone or a Skype call, then you have a face-to-face meeting. When they've met the criteria and they've filled in some details in your application form and you're able to have some sensible questions that you know you're going to address when you talk to them. So it's a step at a time. And that's why I introduced the health check, for example, as a step in my business, so that it helped people, because I realised it was a big jump. Going from, yes, I'm looking to do something, to, crikey, it's a big commitment. So let's go a step at a time to ease your way into it. Which is why I would always say, go and have a chat to 2 or 3 franchisees once you've got a bit of consolidation before you come back to chat to me. Which also is a good motivation to make sure you keep your franchisees happy. But, you know, they'll be the best salespeople for you. They can ask those frank questions and they'll tell them as it is.
Just pick a franchise and go and talk to them, or...
No, good point. Thanks for asking the clarification.
Well, I don't have any, so I can't ask anyone.
No, this would be once you've got a few out there, franchisees in your own organisation. So when we talk about Order Masters with Greg, he was the first franchisee, so he's the one everyone went to. Once they ended up with 5 or 6 or 7, we'd say, here's a list of 5 names, go and have a chat to any of those guys. That type of thing. And I once you've got a few out there, I would use that and say, have you spoken to them? No, therefore I'm sorry, we can't make an appointment to talk to you yet. Really, if you're doing it as an online booking form, which I've just moved to with Schedule Once, where you go through, you ask for the book or whatever, and you answer a few questions or tick a few boxes, that's giving me knowledge to see whether, where you're at in the story, what your background is and so forth. And if those boxes haven't been ticked one way or another, then you don't actually get the next form that comes through to organise an appointment. So we're automating the process that used to take a lot of my time talking to people on the phone, so I can be working more effectively with my clients to help nurture them and take them through the process and do the mentoring. So you can bring those tools in, but you need to get to a certain stage before you do it. Okay. So we then run through the marketing methods. You know, there's a myriad of different ways you can do it. Business brokers obviously are out there. Business brokers generally don't really understand franchising. So they're not always the best. There are the odd exceptions. Brokers of any shape or form are hard. It's a bit like real estate. You know, how many people have got a real estate agent they really think is excellent? occasionally, but often not. Because all they're looking at is the fee when they sell the place, and whether it's up or down a bit. And a few $100 difference in their fee can be thousands of difference in what you sell the house for. They're more motivated to get it turned over. So brokers are a bit the same, but they can be really good, and you may just choose to use them. So there's a firm of brokers that some of my clients use that just introduce them to somebody, and they pay a part fee for the introduction if the person goes through and buys the business. And then you look at franchise magazines. There's an online magazine called Franchise Buyer that's quite good, but you need to probably either you invest a bit of extra money when you first start. It gets obviously less expensive once you're growing and you're looking for 2 or 3 franchisees. They sort of spread the cost, but that's applicable. Trade magazines. Maybe you look in your industry. Maybe for it's in the nursing, I don't know, there's Nursing Monthly or the Nursing Union or the Teachers Union if it's something allied to teaching. Places out there wherever you can find a concentration of your clients. Maybe people who just got building licenses issued or whatever. And there are channels these days for most of these things you can get through companies that monitor, whether it's councils or government departments or whatever, that release the statistics. Maybe one of my clients who was on the Shark Tank, she works out her areas and her prospective clients by the number of preschools in an area. So that's where she goes, and she just markets direct to them. Trade magazines, as I mentioned, but also, of course, online. So that's an important area, growing more and more important. And from my point of view, I certainly see at least half of my clients find me online. That wasn't the case 3 years ago. So that's changing. So it's important to understand. But online. There's online. There are good sites. There are lots of online business brokerages, if you like, business sites you can go to, like Seek and so on. There are some that are really good. There's one that I refer people through to that's been very successful that actually uses about 20 different sites that they sort of consolidate out through. So that's really quite inexpensive, and you can pay them not by a commission basis, but on a click basis. So they'll set it all up for you, recommend the sort of copy you use, the wordage, and you just pay on a success rate like you do maybe with Google Ads or something. So that's interesting. So you can see you can spend an awful lot of money on wasted advertising, just as you can with promoting your product. You've got to make sure it's hitting the sweet spot and getting to your client base as much as you possibly can. And hopefully, if you've got a business where you can identify it, say in Ray's case, it may be you can find out who's got Hewlett-Packard machinery, or what office sizes suit you, so you can get a telemarketing program together for businesses that are offices of 7 people, including an IT department or an accountant or a bookkeeper or whatever it might be for your criteria. And then you can get those people, get their email addresses, get their physical addresses, get their phones. You send them out an email, follow up with a letter, then somebody rings them. That sort of approach. So all those sorts of things can be done. So I suppose from your point of view, are there any other areas that come to mind as far as you're concerned with regards to where you might find your franchisees? Anyone got any suggestions? So I'm looking for the microphone. Did I leave it over there? Anyone got any thoughts as to where they might find prospective franchisees?
I thought possibly current customers, and like you said, reps as well.
Yeah.
The best salesperson that I've had a beauty therapy background, qualified beauty therapist, but then she went off and sold freight, like a freight service, courier service for a while, and throughout that experience she learnt some fantastic sales techniques, and so that combination of the two together was fantastic. And through doing the disc profile, I've worked out that she's an I, which I wouldn't have known that before, but that's great because now I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So there you've got your salesperson. Excellent. Okay. Any other thoughts? No, we've covered a fairly broad area there. Okay. So you can see, you did a little bit of brainstorming. It's surprising what pops up, but always be prepared for the unexpected, because that's what happens. And there's one of these laws of spirits and nature. If you're out there doing things, things happen. That's what I love about momentum. Once you start, suddenly, hey, here's something popped up. And what is it? I don't know, because you're out there and there's energy putting in that space and you're doing things, solutions and ideas and people sort of come along, you bump into them. It really, really does happen. No two ways about it. So one of the key people in my organisation came talking to me about something totally different at a franchise expo. And now she's on my team. So it's great to see the way that it evolves. So we look at marketing methods. I mentioned there's online, your website. Don't make your website franchisee driven. If it's really used for your retail or your service end, just have a tab there and so forth. You may even want a separate website because you don't necessarily want your clients looking in detail to get much information about the franchise. I wouldn't give too much away, but you've got to give a bit of sizzle so that they're going to click and you're going to collect their name. Then they can get an email every month or every week or whatever it might be, just to massage. So because they're out there probably looking. People these days look around. If they're looking at you, they're probably looking at 6 others. So you've got to provide them with just a trickle of really good information that's knowledgeable. It's going to help them make a decision and probably be educational. So they're saying, oh, yeah, these people know what they're talking about. When it comes to them saying, who do I speak to next, then you're going to be on their shopping list. All right? The best you can hope for is to be one of 3, going back to Danny Benjamin in London and Derek Pint with the retail bedding. People are going to shop around. If you get a chance to be on their top 3 shopping lists, well, you've got a chance to convert. And if you're up for it and they're the right sort of people and you do your job properly, you should be picking up more than your fair share. As simple as that. Social media is a big thing these days, particularly depends on the industry, particularly when we look at, because Facebook is 70-80% female driven. So when we look at beauty therapy, look at children's areas, all those sorts of things that are sort of female biased in their usage, they're huge. Holidays, that sort of thing. Whether something like floor stripping has got a space on Facebook, I'm not sure, because I don't know how many of your clients necessarily go to Facebook, but it's changing dramatically. LinkedIn also for business to business can be quite important, and it's surprising who gets on there these days. And you pick up a lovely information. You get a little email saying, these 3 people have been to your website this week or been to your LinkedIn page. So, that looks interesting. So you make sure you drop him a note, that sort of thing. We look also at these businesses for sale websites. So you're looking at that as a possibility. One that's a little bit of a sideways one we found worked really well. The newspapers don't like it. But the job's vacant, position's vacant. You put in there a position vacant, but you say career and investment opportunity. So you're looking for a climbing, a sports manager who's interested in a career path to business, to business growth or something like that. It's surprising how you can find people. But we're just coming out from left field down that sort of thing. So the whole thing with all of this, make sure that it makes sense, that there's synergy in the process, that people can understand it. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And it's a challenge to do that because we all get excited, we've got lots of information to share, but you've got to try and keep it simple so it's step by step by step and people can get their heads around it.